Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Poochie, boo, 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 boo. Poochie, boo, 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 boo. Boom, boom, boom. Poochie, boo, 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 boo. Ah, boom, boom. Poochie, boo, 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 boo. Poochie, boo, 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 boo. Poochie, boo, 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 boo. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Poochie, boo, 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 boo. Ba, da, ba, 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 ba. Ba, da, ba, 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 ba. Poochie, boo, 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 boo. Poochie, boo, 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 boo. Boom, boom, poochie, boo, 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 boo. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Y'all, it's breached containment. In a big way. Truly the definition of you guys are in a crisis. I'm on my way today.
You guys are in a crisis. I'm on my way.
The Backrooms has hit network, I'm not gonna say prestige television, I'm gonna say wishes it was prestige television, with the season 3 episode 5 episode of American Horror Stories, the American Horror Story spin-off, the episode entitled Backrooms. And, there's a lot to unpack. Hello, my name is glitchwitch.jpg. You can just call me Glitchwitch. I make videos about internet horror, such as analog horror, digital horror, creepypastas, ARGs, internet urban legends, and sometimes I talk about survival horror video games, which just usually means Silent Hill. And today, this video, I'm gonna be fully transparent with you. There's no script, there's no notes. Sometimes I have a fully written script, sometimes I just have notes. Today, this is from the heart because, oh man, we're putting our hater caps on today, divas. I try not to be super negative on this channel. Of the 2 times I've been very negative, it's either about Urban Spook, which is a notorious analog horror series that is kind of like shock value for shock value's sake. And then I also was a little negative to 11BX1731, and that's the video I made where I was like, I'm not gonna make hater videos. There's no reason. Now, today, I'm taking shots at people who deserve to have shots taken at them because they're rich and famous and they can handle another person dunking on them. I like to not tear down small internet creators like that I usually uplift, but today, the Hollywood bigwigs have stepped into our territory. So, it's Glitchwitch Hater Hour, and let me give you a little backstory about why I care so much about this. So, first of all, The Backrooms, if you are not familiar, is at this point a beloved internet creation. The Backrooms first appeared in a 2019 4chan thread with this, at the time, mysterious unidentified image. It has since been identified as a hobby shop in Wisconsin. It no longer looks like this, but we know that that's the source. But at the time, we did not know the source. And the original idea was that there is a reality parallel to ours that you can like no clip into, and it's just this liminal nightmare. And from there, people went and built their own levels of the Backrooms, and eventually a internet creator named Kane Pixels put out Backrooms found footage and started his Backrooms series, which catapulted Backrooms into pretty as mainstream as an internet niche can go. His series has been picked up by the production company A24 and is allegedly being adapted into a feature film with him directing. We haven't heard anything from that for a while. I know he mentioned that perhaps the writer's strike, halted that, which is good. We'll bring up the writer's strike again in a second. Trust me. It's just become this one of the great internet horror things. It exists in a place, to me, between like digital and analog horror and creepypasta. It has a lot of tenets of creepypasta, but to me it came post like golden age creepypasta, so I kind of consider it its own thing. But anyway, when something gets this popular that, you know, we're getting movie adaptations and things like that, you're going to get some weird cash grabby, not very well thought out adaptations. Think like the Slender Man movie that was in very poor taste and still came out even after the real world attempted murder and the families of those involved with that not wanting it to still come out. Think that. And in this case, for the Backrooms, enter Ryan Murphy. Who is Ryan Murphy, you may ask? Ryan Murphy is a titan of modern American television. He first started with a WB show called Popular, and then went on to work on the very popular show Nip Tuck, but his true television empire began with 2 shows. Just the fact that one man is responsible for these 2 shows is insane, and those would be Glee and American Horror Story, and these ran concurrent. American Horror Story has continued long since Glee ended, but they began around the same time. Now, Glee was wildly popular. I mean, it was everywhere when it came out in the 2000s. You know, I was in like middle school theater at the height of Glee. I somehow have like Matrix dodged Glee my entire life. My only knowledge of Glee is the turkey lurkey time let's have a kiki thing with Sarah Jessica Parker, and like the Twitter threads that show every like diabolical thing that Mr. Shu has done. So one day I might be brave enough to try Glee. But I was on the other camp because I'm alternative. I loved American Horror Story. And you know what? I held out for so long on American Horror Story. The premise of American Horror Story is it was a multi-season anthology horror series that would often recycle the same cast. So each season was its own story. Sometimes they ended up crossing over, but that didn't happen until it kept going. And we had the first season was just like, it's just American Horror Story straight murder house is what they ended up calling it later. The second season is Asylum. The third season is Coven, followed by Freak Show, Hotel, Roanoke. I'm trying to do this from memory, y'all. I did. Shit. Okay, so yeah. Murder House, Asylum, Coven, Freak Show, Hotel, Roanoke, Cult, Apocalypse, 1984, Double Feature, NYC, and Delicate. So I held out way too long. The season I gave up on was season 11, NYC, which frankly wasn't even that horrible of a season. It was too good to be a late-stage American Horror Story. Like, it wasn't dumb enough, so we stopped watching it. Most people who were fans of the show at the time would say it fell off around Roanoke-ish. I stand by Roanoke because Roanoke is a very folk horror-y, fake documentary, a lot of things that I like, and honestly a lot of things that most people that like internet horror like, so I recommend that season. It really was pretty enjoyable horror TV back in the day, especially when, you know, Murder House came out in 2011. There was not a lot of horror television on major networks like FX. I mean, we didn't get like NBC Hannibal until years later, or even things like True Detective, which I know isn't like strictly horror, but it's certainly horrific. So it was a big deal for horror fans, and it was, you know, like most things that Ryan Murphy does, it was targeted at and celebrated queer culture. So I think it was just kind of a breath of fresh air for especially young people who could kind of pour themselves into media that they weren't typically seeing on TV. And for that, I will always love what it started as. The problem is Ryan Murphy has gone the same way that every middle-aged white Hollywood exec goes, and he's just desperately hungry for money because, you know, out of the success of Glee and American Horror Story, he has had so many television shows. He just throws things at the wall and hopes that they stick. He's done a series called Feud where they pick celebrity feuds and make a season of television about that. American Crime Story, which like genuinely had a really good season with The Gianni Versace murders, that was done really well. But the thing that has finally made me pump the brakes on him is there is a newer series in the grand scheme of Ryan Murphy new series that he has started called Monster. And I would say this is the probably most successful post-American Horror Story Glee show that he's had, that he seems to be sticking with. And the first season was called Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, or Monster, Jeffrey Dahmer, and Evan Peters, who is a frequent collaborator of Ryan Murphy, plays Jeffrey Dahmer in it. Love Evan Peters, love most of the cast of American Horror Story. I mean, Evan Peters is a very underrated actor, and I feel bad that he kind of got stuck just being Ryan Murphy's little bitch boy for so long, because I think he should have a really, really good career. He's very talented. Now, I never watched Dahmer because the cultural reaction to Dahmer made me very uncomfortable. A lot of people were sexualizing Jeffrey Dahmer because he was portrayed by Evan Peters, who is a handsome man. Like, I think Evan Peters is attractive for sure, but it was very strange, and they were just sexualizing Dahmer in general, and that made me really uncomfortable. And like, the show and like Netflix seem to be encouraging this like it's a meme, and I just don't think that's funny, because he truly was like a monster, as the title suggests. Now, in contrast to that, there are 2 other seasons of Monster, one that is currently airing or just recently aired, and one that has been announced. And that would, the second season that is in the news right now is Monster, the Menendez brothers. And the Menendez brothers were 2 brothers who murdered their parents in the 90s. They're in prison now. And yes, murder is bad. Shocking news from Glitch Witch here. However, they were horrifically abused in many different ways by their father, and there is a gray area to that I don't like them being compared to someone like Jeffrey Dahmer. And then the third season is going to be Ed Gein, who is famous for mostly grave robbing and taking the parts of the bodies and turning them into furniture, keychains, things like that. He murdered 2 people only, I believe. And again, yes, bad, but I don't think he's comparable to Dahmer. Like, it's just, there's nuance, it's different. And also, Charlie Hunnam is playing Ed Gein, which is like, you are just trying to do the whole, like, sexy serial killer thing, and, like, Ed Gein's not sexy. Ed Gein was never trying to be sexy. He's not, like... Anyway, so that is part 1 of me being fed up with Ryan Murphy. Part 2 is he was a scab during the writer's strike, okay? Shitty, horrible. The last season of American Horror Story Delicate was partially filmed during the writer's strike. Bullshit, shitty, crappy. Hate it. The writers have made his career what it is. To see him turn his back on the very people that have made his career is disgusting to me. So, that's why I'm pissed about Ryan Murphy. And the wider conversation around this episode that I'm going to talk about, you can argue, Glitch Witch, he didn't direct or write this episode. It's not his fault. It is his fault because he has created the show and the slopification of his work, if that makes sense. Like, he's just churning it out so rapidly, the care is no longer there, the oversight is no longer there. So while other people are also responsible for this episode being dog shit, I'm pointing fingers at Ryan Murphy, and I don't really think anyone's gonna be mad about that. But let's get into Ryan Murphy's Backrooms. So, American Horror Stories is a spin-off of American Horror Story in which every episode is a different story. So instead of it being an anthology series in that every season is a different story, every episode is a different story. They're like small, contained short stories. I would compare it most to how VHS has small stories within each of them. And like VHS, American Horror Stories is hit or miss. I only watched the first season all the way through, and there were some pretty good ones, and then there were some absolute garbage ones. Now, again, I've kind of stopped watching his stuff because of the aforementioned reasons, so I'm not sure how season 2 and 3 of American Horror Stories has been going, but I, of course, wanted to watch the Backrooms episode because I cover internet horror and I am always wanting internet horror to reach the masses, but I want internet horror to reach the masses through the internet creators getting the spotlight. That's not what happened here. We had Hollywood people trying to take an internet thing that they didn't really understand and package it up quickly and give it to the masses. And that's the issue. So I'm going to give a quick plot summary. It's full spoilers of American Horror Stories Backrooms. It's directed by David Gelb, who is also a personal Glitchwitch enemy because he directed the horror film The Lazarus Effect, which I hate. He is mostly known for like food documentaries, like Jiro Dreams of Sushi is a very beloved documentary, and he's good at food docs. He needs to stick to that and stay away from horror. Please. In this episode, we have our main character. His name is Daniel, and he's played by Michael Imperioli. Great actor. Don't know why you're bogged down with this king. I'm sorry. And Daniel is a famous Hollywood screenwriter who's won Academy Awards, and strike one. I hate the tortured writer setup for horror stuff. Yes, Misery's great. Love it. I don't like Alan Wake. I have not played the second game, I only played the first game. It made me nauseous, and I find him deeply annoying. You can come at me in the comments, that's fine. I've heard the second one is even better, maybe I'll try it. But I played Alan Wake, and then I listened to this audiobook called Mr. Cables that was essentially like Alan Wake vibes. I'm tired of the struggling male horror author. Oh, I'm sick of it. So immediately I'm like, God damn it, he's a screenwriter. If they're not a screenwriter, they're an architect. Daniel is trying to write this screenplay, and his best friend and agent comes in and is like, we haven't seen you in so long. Like, you gotta come back out in the world. And we find out that Daniel's son has gone missing, and he is not ready to go out into the real world because he's struggling with the loss of his son and what could have happened with his son. And as he tells his best friend to get out, we don't want you here, I need you gone, he opens the door to go into his office, and he's in a grocery store. An empty grocery store. And it's the Backrooms, I guess, complete with Utz chips and LaCroix sparkling water. And, you know, he's like freaked out immediately and very confrontational, very like, where's going on? Who the are you? Who the is this? There's no one around. The lights are like, you know, coming off and on. And then he sees this big caped person and a little caped person, and he realized that the little person is his son. He goes out, finally returns back to his house, and he's like, what the heck happened? And then he gets a call from his friend and agent who's like, where have you been? It's been 3 weeks. We couldn't find you. So he goes and meets his best friend at a restaurant, and his ex-wife, mother of his child, is also there. And they reveal to him that they have found the body of their son buried in a park. And they're like, where were you? What's going on? Why were you gone? And he freaks out, realizing that he lost time when he was in the back rooms. And he takes a moment to take a breather in the restaurant, goes to go into the bathroom in the restaurant, and he ends up in the standard back rooms. The one we're used to seeing, you know, from the original image. I'm not going to get into what I don't like about it yet. Also, I'm probably just showing screenshots because I'm worried that if I show footage, that I'll get copyright struck, and I don't want Hulu or Ryan Murphy to get a cent of this video, frankly. He's exploring the back rooms, he's freaked out, and there's all these, like, there's a TV that appears, there's all these, like, demon creatures with masks that I believe we see this mask in his office earlier, so I assume they're from a film that he's written. And then he ends up back out of the back rooms, and he starts, you know, thinking, I gotta do something about this, and he says, Mama, let's research. And he looks up his situation, and he finds a Google search, or it's like search.net. I'll put a screenshot up. I did have a laugh at that. Whatever the fake Google was called. He finds a thing about liminal spaces with an insane definition of liminal spaces. I thought that we were doing a bad job on the internet diluting the definition of liminal space. But oh my god, this is like truly being like, it's the other place separate from here. That's not what a liminal space is. And eventually he sees a little thing about the backrooms, but doesn't really click onto it. But then he finds a vlog from a guy who recorded Super 8 footage for some reason because he couldn't get digital cameras to work. I think that's a riff on like Kane using the VHS technology of the same exact things that Daniel has seen. So the grocery store and the traditional backrooms. So he gets into contact with this man who made the vlog, and we find out that this man is in prison. And this man explains that, and his name is Eli, the other backrooms guy. We find out that Eli is in prison because he was on his phone trying to buy dog food and hit a woman who was riding her bike and killed her. But there was nobody around, so he lied to police and said that she ran the stop sign, not him, which got him off. He was not, gonna face any jail time. And he essentially says, like, I lied once, but I've had to live with that lie every day since, and essentially says that the backrooms is reserved for people who do something horrible but don't like own up to it. I'm sure you can kind of guess where this is going. So he ends up confessing, and then he is free and doesn't keep clipping into the backrooms. So we end up finding out via a very intense police shootout that comes out of nowhere that Daniel is responsible for the death of his son. He didn't want to deal with having to be a father because of his crazy, Hollywood screenwriter life. And his wife was going to leave him and I assume, take him through the ringer for child support and all that. So he took his kid to the park and shot him to death. And they just showed it. They just showed him this child, which was kind of crazy and bold for American Horror Stories, but I digress. He ends up, dying essentially in this shootout with the police, but he never confesses, so he ends up back in the back rooms. There's this weird skeletal lady that has the voice of his son who, points him to the exit, and he takes a number, and it's shown that he's going to be waiting for, ever to be taken care of. Very, Beetlejuice vibes. And then the episode ends. So that's American Horror Stories Backrooms. Why do I hate this so much? So, I first want to publicly apologize for ever criticizing King Pixel's decision to incorporate the Async Corporation into his Backrooms lore. If you are a frequent watcher of Glitch Witch, you will know that I've always been pretty open about the fact that I don't love the attempt to explain isn't the right word, but just the focus on the scientific research of the backrooms. And really, especially after watching this, that just boils down to that I'm not a big science fiction girly. I'm not. I prefer less formalized looks into things. That's why I kind of like how House of Leaves is handled. That's it's a documentarian figuring it out in his own house. But it really truly comes down to personal taste, and especially seeing someone else attempt to frame the backrooms the way that this episode did. I'm formally apologizing to King Pixels that I ever said anything bad about Async. You have done nothing wrong. Nothing. So the first biggest glaring problem with this is they hit the backrooms with the marketable horror stick. Essentially, they tried to make it scarier. To me, the thing that is so wonderful about the backrooms and what makes it so effective to myself and other people who are affected by liminal horror is it's the absence of purpose, of reason. It's the emptiness and the familiarity that comes with the backrooms that makes it so uncomfortable. And this completely takes that away. It's lit like a horror film. It's lit like Insidious or something, which is great in Insidious, but does not work for the Backrooms. You don't need to light the traditional Backrooms with this red mood lighting. It's scary because it has stark office lights. I'll say that the grocery store setting, I didn't like how full it was. Like, I didn't like that it was fully stocked. That felt a little strange to me, but the lighting was good. Like, that was fine, but once he got into, like, the back rooms, the lighting was so strange, and there was this scary music, and the inclusion of the, like, demonic entities. To me, the emptiness and the loneliness is what's so compelling about the Backrooms. And the other issue I have is, essentially, they choose to make the Backrooms hell or purgatory. Now, I don't view the Backrooms as having any moral standing or comprehension of human morality. It is simply another reality that is not ours. It does not ascribe to our morals. Anyone can be affected by the Backrooms, and I think Kane does a great job with that. Of just, random people no clip into the Backrooms. It's random and cruel and scary. You don't have to be a bad person to go to the Backrooms. You're just, all of his characters are simply people. In his, which this isn't a Backrooms video, but similarly, his other project, The Oldest Few, the greatest sin that character commits is just being too curious and wanting to get vlog footage. That's not really comparable to murdering your child. So I dislike that they have ascribed morality to the Backrooms and turned it into, like, a hell. I think that's just a really cheap read of the concept of the Backrooms, and it tells me that they didn't bother to actually even probably sit and watch a single Backrooms video. I think they looked at the picture and read, like, maybe the first paragraph of the Wikipedia article on it, and were like, okay, so it's spooky internet hell. I also don't like that it can change based on who is in it. Like, we see personal things to Daniel, like his son, his Academy Award, his Oscar speech plays, things like that. And again, the Backrooms doesn't care about you that much. It's truly not that. It doesn't care about humanity that much. Its only attempt is to try to duplicate humanity. It can't be explained or reduced to what this episode has reduced it to. And I'll, again, give Kane credit for his explanation for the Backrooms with Async researching it is still no explanation at all, because they don't know why it's happening, they don't know how it's growing, they don't know the impact that it has on people, so it's still very vague. There is nothing vague about this, and there are certain points that feel like they're just ticking boxes on internet horror in general. The plot feels like a bad creepypasta. The TV feels like they're trying to do, like, Skinamarink, analog horror. Even the masks feel like analog horror. They feel like our analog horror spooky faces, the uncanny valley of it all. The woman or creature thing at the end holding his son literally looks like an urban spook painting to me, and maybe that's me projecting. But again, this is just ticking like, oh, let's throw internet horror at the wall, but not actually understand any of it for a second. And of course, that could be me reading into it because I am so aware of all the internet horror tropes, but, like, at minimum, the TV thing was absolutely a Skinamarink reference because it had, like, the old cartoons playing or the old TV shows playing. So to me, this is just so obviously a cheap cash grab attempt to understand what is a decently big phenomenon online that is currently dominated by young people and not Hollywood execs. So, Ryan Murphy sees a pitch probably from whoever wrote this. It was written by John Robin Bates and Joe Bakken. He worked on Grotesquerie. He helped create Grotesquerie, which is, again, another Ryan Murphy project that's currently running. So, I'm sure they were like, what if we do the Backrooms? Like, the kids like the Backrooms. And Ryan Murphy's like, yeah, I've heard that word. A24 is making a movie. Let's beat them to it. Like, that's the vibe I get from this. And it makes me sad because it's a really good idea and it's currently being done really well. So go to those people. Like, yeah, sure, King Pixels is working with A24, but there are other online creators that have touched the Backrooms and that are familiar with the Backrooms. Work with them. Like, please. So, I have long been hesitant to, fully get excited for the A24 Backrooms movie. But after this, I am hopeful that because Kane is involved even a little bit, it's not gonna be like this. And I don't know where that stands. Again, I don't know how far they are into the process, but I hope they see the response to this, which literally this, and I know Ryan Murphy's not a boomer, he's absolutely Gen X, but this feels like boomers do Backrooms. Like, it's just so strange. I don't get who this is for. Like, I guess anyone who doesn't know what the Backrooms is may be like, oh, this is kind of cool, but I also think they'd be very confused by, the Eli character who attempts to, like, explain liminality and what the Backrooms is, because it makes no sense to an outsider, There was no attempt made to actually explain the Backrooms. So it just, like, it sucks for people who like the Backrooms, and then it's confusing and weird for anyone who doesn't know it. Like, I wish they would have just not even attempted to tie it in at that point and just used the name and done whatever they want. But yeah, it's fascinating. Just such a spectacular miss, and I think that it's being handled the same way that Slender Man was handled. Like I mentioned earlier, sometimes these internet things breach containment, and it's not always good. And the key to keeping it good is having the original creators involved. That's why, I am hopeful for the A24 Backrooms. I love Channel Zero, the sci-fi creepypasta show, because the first season was developed by Chris Straub, who wrote Candle Cove and who did Local 58 as well. So that's someone entrenched in the community and is truly, a father of the genre working on it. Skinamarink is so great because Kyle Edward Ball is from our world. He started on YouTube. So we need creators to be involved in these. Like, even today, I just read that Dear David, the movie adaptation of Dear David, Adam Ellis wasn't involved in that at all because technically BuzzFeed owned that entire Twitter thread and all the art he did for it because he was employed by BuzzFeed at the time. The fact that he wasn't involved in a Dear David movie makes it even worse to me than it already looked. So you have to keep these people involved in it, and some things are never going to get touched without the creator. Like, I know Alex Kister, who created the Mandela Catalog, he's thinking about writing a feature version. That's not gonna go out of his hands because it's so specifically tied to him. But these loose, vague concepts like the Backrooms, like Slender Man, like creepypasta in general, they're ripe to be misused because there's no clear ownership, and they're viewed as things to make a quick and easy cash grab on. So I hope that this episode is a good cautionary tale. I don't know how much it's going to actually affect anything because it is, again, an episode of an American Horror Stories spinoff. So it's not like a feature film. But, it's bad. I don't like it. Ryan Murphy, You Will Never See Heaven. It's a good reminder. Go watch King Pixels Backrooms. Go watch other internet horror creators' Backrooms. And please keep supporting internet creators so that they can get opportunities to bring the things we love to a wider audience. A big win for internet creation in general, I wouldn't call this horror, but Gooseworks, who created The Amazing Digital Circus, which is a thing I don't comprehend at all. I don't know anything about it other than it's everywhere. Gooseworks got a licensing deal with Netflix where they have licensed the first season of Amazing Digital Circus out to Netflix. They retain complete rights. They can keep it up for free on YouTube, and they have complete creative control over the series. That's huge for both internet creation and independent animation. So there's hope. Absolutely, there's hope. And we just need to keep involving these creators, supporting them. And at the end of the day, I know I want the masses to see this stuff, but I want them to see it the right way. And Ryan Murphy's attempt at this was not the right way. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this if you've seen it. If you are an American Horror Story fan like I was, let me know what your favorite season is. I think my favorite season is probably Roanoke, which I know is controversial, but I think it's neat. I want to thank my YouTube members. We have the Creepypasta OCs up on the screen. And then in Survival Horror Emo, we have E-Rob, Odini, and So-Called Punk. And then in Analog Horror Scary Face, we have Kira Coffer. If you'd like to become a YouTube member, there's a little join button next to the subscribe button, which you can also hit. And I just appreciate you guys liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing. The outpouring of love I got for my Jeff the Killer fanfiction video delighted me. I'm so glad that you guys liked that. I definitely would like to make more videos like that in the future because they are just fun to make for me. Like, I get to be very silly and goofy. And it's the type of video that I like to watch, so I am very glad that y'all like to watch it too. I always want to try to make videos that I would want to watch. So I am very happy with the response to that one. But thank you so much for watching. And, you know, don't do something bad and then end up in the Ryan Murphy backrooms, which is secretly hell. Bye.